Beneath the gloomy overcast skies of Victorian London there once lived a mixed-race teenage boy whose musical melodies took the whole world by storm. Samuel Coleridge-Taylor, hailed with the revered title the Black Mozart, bloomed brilliantly all alone amid deep-rooted racial prejudice. Tonight, nestled within this soothing tale meant only for quiet reflection, we may listen closely to the exotic tenderness woven deep inside his musical notes and feel how one wandering soul managed to compose pure inner peace and spiritual redemption while trapped in the tangled mire of confused identity and cultural belonging. He carried the ancestral blood of Sierra Leone blended with the refined gentlemanly upbringing of British society, yet could never find a true place to belong between two vastly different cultures. The entire life of Samuel Coleridge-Taylor unfolded like a beautifully crafted yet swiftly paced musical movement cut short abruptly in the late autumn of his 37th year. Tonight's narrative carries no impassioned accusations or angry lamentations, only the lingering echo of piano keys falling softly and the unfulfilled dreams drifting quietly across the night. Let us walk gently alongside this tender, quiet composer and step into his faint yet unyielding world hidden deep within the stillness of night. Have you ever heard of a black composer who was personally received by President Theodore Roosevelt inside the White House of America? Samuel Coleridge-Taylor swept away overwhelming racial prejudice solely through his extraordinary artistic talent, yet could never break free from the chains of persistent poverty and endless physical exhaustion. This is a heartfelt confession woven from music, ancestral blood, and the twists of fate, meant to be listened to quietly as the lamplight softens and dims into dusk. Samuel's life story will lead you to taste that restrained quiet warmth tinged with inescapable destiny, a gentle comfort that has traveled across more than 100 years of time. Picture a cold, damp afternoon in London in 1912. A man of merely 37 years old collapses weakly upon the platform of Croydon Station. His face is deathly pale, his breath shallow and labored, yet even in his fading state of consciousness his fingers twitch involuntarily in the empty air as if conducting a grand symphony. Only he alone can hear. The refined gentlemen and elegant ladies gathered to watch may never have realized that this mixed-race man, struggling beneath the weight of poverty and lingering illness, was once a phenomenal musical prodigy who captivated the entire British Empire and even the whole of the United States. Samuel Coleridge-Taylor bore a name as elegant and noble as any aristocrat, yet endured a fate as humble as drifting dust while possessing a soul as noble and lofty as divine grace. Tonight, accompanied by the softly flickering glow of the hearth, we walk fully into the untold life of this remarkable soul. Through this tranquil tale you need not strive to memorize, we delve deep into the countless untold loneliness hidden behind the celebrated nickname the Black Mozart, and witness how this soul mended its fractured sense of identity with endless lines of musical notation amid the white supremacist atmosphere of the Victorian era, brewing the softest, most tender rhythmic melodies from the depths of unspoken prejudice. Relax your breathing and let time drift gently backward to the late 19th century, an age filled with the thick smoke of industrial London, yet resounding with the graceful lingering tones of piano music. Samuel Coleridge-Taylor rose to fame as suddenly and dazzlingly as a bolt of lightning splitting the quiet night sky, brilliant almost to the point of cruelty. In 1898 his cantata Hiawatha's Wedding Feast premiered at the iconic Royal Albert Hall in London, hushing the entire bustling city into reverent stillness. Its melodies brimmed with exotic charm, blending the primal rhythmic pulse of African heritage with the polished, elegant grace of British classical tradition, flowing like a soft warm breeze drifting over distant foreign lands, sweeping away the rigid old-fashioned dullness that had long lingered over London's artistic circles. Audiences had never encountered music quite like this. It belonged to no single established cultural tradition. It stood purely as an intimate soul monologue poured forth from the heart of a mixed-race artist. Spectators rose to their feet, bursting into thunderous applause, many moved to silent tears, his name spreading instantly across every street and alley of the capital. Yet once the echoes of applause faded away, Samuel would walk alone back to his narrow, modest rented lodging in Croydon, where the cold, harsh wind of cruel reality quickly jolted him back to plain hardship. Though his musical scores sold out rapidly in every music shop and his portrait graced the front pages of major newspapers, he never received fair royalties due to serious flaws in the copyright laws of that era. This gifted musical genius still had to teach late into the night at cheap tutoring studios merely to afford a simple carton of milk for his young children. He wrote honestly in his private diary, "I seem to live trapped inside a grand illusory dream. Upon the stage I am revered almost as a god, yet off stage I am a penniless man, forced to count every penny even for simple carriage fare." This extreme stark contrast between towering fame and grinding poverty defined the underlying tone of his entire life, carving the first irreversible crack into the quiet fabric of his destined journey. If relentless unrelenting poverty wore down his spirit like rough sandpaper, then the mystery surrounding his own family origins remained an old deep wound in Samuel's heart that could never fully heal. His father was a skilled black doctor originally from Sierra Leone who left Britain dejectedly before Samuel was even born, unable to overcome the harsh racial barriers that barred him from practicing medicine locally, leaving his young British mother to raise their child alone in a poor working class neighborhood. From an early age Samuel understood clearly that he was different from those around him, marked not only by his thick curly hair and dark complexion but also by carrying a foreign surname that set him apart in British society. Without ever having laid eyes on his own father, his whole life became a quiet endless search for the missing half of his ancestral bloodline. He would sit alone for hours at the piano, countless times striving to capture the faint distant drumbeats of his father's homeland. Through the refined counterpoint techniques of Western classical music, he boldly integrated elements of black spiritual hymns into his classical compositions, a move considered utterly heretical and rebellious within the conservative elite classical music circles of his time. Through these bold musical experiments he embarked on a profound cross-continental journey of spiritual roots seeking. He hoped to convey a powerful message to the world through his art that true beauty holds no boundaries of skin color, that the blending of different ancestral bloodlines should never be seen as an original sin but rather as a precious divine gift bestowed upon humanity. Yet the harder he strove to prove this simple heartfelt truth, the more closely subtle exclusion, veiled mockery and quiet marginalization from mainstream society clung to his every step. He remained forever a quiet outsider, wandering gently, yet painfully trapped within the narrow cultural gap stretching between the shores of Africa and Britain. In 1904 Samuel received a prestigious invitation to travel to the United States, embarking on the journey that brought him closest to radiant light and genuine recognition. Throughout his lifetime in Washington he was honored with an invitation to the White House, where President Theodore Roosevelt clasped his hand warmly, praising him publicly as a priceless treasure belonging to all humanity. For a man long accustomed to walking with guarded humility in Britain, carefully avoiding open discrimination at every turn, this moment held an indescribable, overwhelming sense of shock, validation and spiritual uplift. Black communities across America embraced him as a national hero, seeing his extraordinary artistic success as powerful proof of the boundless creative potential hidden within the black race. During this meaningful journey Samuel experienced an unprecedented surge of inner strength and a profound solidified sense of belonging. He began to realize his music was far more than mere combinations of melodic notes and harmonic structures. It stood as a quiet, inspiring banner, an invisible winding path leading humanity toward freedom, equality and mutual respect. He visited rural black schools across the American South, listening intently to ancient folk ballads passed down through generations. Moved to heartfelt silent tears by their raw, sincere emotion, he began drafting plans for an even grander, ambitious musical work determined to engrave the dignity and noble spirit of African heritage permanently into the very core of Western classical tradition. Yet the radiant glory of his American tour also laid bare far crueler, harsh realities. Even in a nation that prided itself on liberty and justice, skin color still remained an unbreakable chain dictating human fate and social standing. Caught between immense artistic achievement and deep solemn sorrow over the fate of his race, his spirit endured unprecedented heavy pressure. This mounting tension stretched his inner resolve like a tightly strung musical string, capable of producing the most exquisite, haunting melodies, yet dangerously vulnerable to sudden, irreparable breakage. Upon returning to London, Samuel plunged himself into an even more frantic, exhausting work routine to support his family and provide for his young growing children. He felt compelled to accept every humble commissioned composition offer available, spending day and night conducting orchestras, tutoring students and writing endless musical scores. He possessed an overly gentle, generous nature and a strong, profound sense of responsibility, never able to refuse any request for help, no matter how small or demanding. Constant overwork slowly eroded his already fragile physical health, his eyes growing sunken and weary, yet his stubborn, passionate devotion to music never dimmed for a single moment. He began suffering frequent sharp chest pains, yet would simply sip a cup of cold, stale coffee before bending once more over his manuscript paper, sketching flowing, rising and falling melodic lines across the page. He once confessed quietly to his beloved wife, "I feel time slipping away far too quickly. A whole choir of African voices lingers shouting inside my mind, and I must commit every note to paper before it fades forever." The rhythmic pace of his compositions from this period grew increasingly urgent, hurried, as if racing desperately against the approaching shadow of death. Beneath the soft, exotic tenderness of his melodies crept a haunting undertone of sorrow and quiet premonition that his own life was drawing swiftly to a close. He no longer cared whether his works would win favor among the Wealthy Victorian aristocracy, his only desire was to pour his entire fractured yet sincere loyal heart completely into every musical note. Long before the autumn of his 37th year arrived, his life had already burned itself quietly to the very last embers of endurance. On August 28, 1912, the iconic sorrowful scene at Croydon Station unfolded exactly as fate had written. While waiting for his train, Samuel collapsed suddenly from heart failure triggered by severe pneumonia. In that fleeting weakened moment, his mind drifted back to the ethereal melodies of his own Hiawatha. He was carried gently back to his home, and during his final remaining hours of life his consciousness slipped entirely into the boundless immersive world of music. According to his wife's heartfelt recollection, he waved his arms weakly from his bed with his last ounce of strength, murmuring soft indistinct words as if conducting a vast choir of thousands united in song. He passed away utterly penniless, unable even to afford a proper dignified burial plot, yet leaving behind dozens of kilograms of precious handwritten musical manuscripts. News of his sudden passing plunged London's musical circles into prolonged reverent silence and overwhelming collective shame. On the day of his funeral, thousands of black and white mourners walked side by side, hand in hand, through city streets, forming one of the rare racially united solemn processions in London's long history. His tombstone bears his timeless profound words: "Though shadows of worldly gloom surround me, my soul still sings." Samuel Coleridge-Taylor drew his earthly curtain swiftly and unexpectedly, like a single musical note accidentally falling from the sky, only to be erased all too soon. Yet the melodic seeds he sowed patiently over his brief lifetime quietly altered the very genetic makeup of classical music across the following 100 years, warming the hearts and soothing the sorrows of countless marginalized wandering souls ever since. Returning to the quiet railway station mentioned in the opening of our tale, modern Croydon no longer carries the smoke, coldness and indifference of that bygone era. Yet if you listen closely to the soft wandering breeze lingering there, you may still catch a faint trace of Samuel's sorrowful, gentle, rhythmic pulse. Was he truly worthy of the title the Black Mozart? Perhaps he was simply unapologetically himself, an ordinary soul striving tirelessly to bridge the wide gap between divided ancestral bloodlines through the universal language of music. Though his life remained painfully short, it possessed rare profound wholeness, for he never betrayed the gentle, heartfelt identity hidden deep within his spirit. In 37 fleeting years he taught the world that true self-acceptance never comes as a gift granted by others. It grows from deep, honest exploration of one's own inner soul. The gentle tale of Samuel Coleridge-Taylor now draws to its quiet close, and the world outside your window has settled into soft stillness. May Samuel's melodies, as light and soothing as sea breeze, brush away all weariness, restlessness and anxiety lingering within your heart. On this mild, quiet night you need no longer cling to worldly labels or tangled identities. You need only simply be yourself. Release heavy, tangled thoughts, slow your breathing gently, and let yourself drift into calm, peaceful slumber. May you encounter the starry, quiet skies of Sierra Leone in your dreams, and meet that free, wandering soul dancing lightly across the black and white piano keys. Good night and sweet dreams.